One thing that I've never really talked a lot about is why people who have to travel for work and also for pleasure choose to live in Miami. So today I'm going to talk about why Miami is the ultimate hub for people who have to travel all the time. And I'm going to get started now. Hey everyone, my name is Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. I work with my husband, Ognjen Prezzi, and also our team. Today I'm going to talk about why Miami is a great hub to live in if you have to travel throughout the United States throughout the week or throughout the month, or if you have to travel to Europe a lot. But first, before I get started, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another update. We do put out new videos every week. Also, use the link in our information box and download our free guides today. There's a great relocation guide there, and also on that page after you register, you will also find some additional information like our monthly market report that is also really good. It's a long report that is super detailed, and I think you'll love it. If you would like to reach out to us, you can also use the information in the information box. Our telephone number's there, email's there, call, text, email, whatever works best for you is fine by us. Okay, let's get started. One thing that's really interesting about the position of where Miami is located is it makes itself very accessible to other parts of the United States, also Latin America, and also Europe. And so because of this, Miami is a very interesting place and an accessible place for people to live when they have to travel a lot throughout the year. Over the years, I've met a lot of people who lived on the western part of the United States. And although they love living there, travel-wise, it was so far away from the eastern part of the United States. And also a lot of people like to travel to Europe or have to travel to Europe for work. And being, 5 hours away by a flight just to get on the eastern side to take a connecting flight to get over to Europe, it's a lot. And so that 4.5 difference is very tedious for a lot of people. And so we've known a lot of people who have moved back from living or moved here from living on the more western part of the United States just because of the time difference it takes to travel across the United States to get, somewhere else in the U.S. on the eastern side, other major cities, or, get to Europe. So Miami's location is very accessible for a lot of that type of travel. And that's why a lot of people end up either moving back or choose to live here at the beginning just because it makes more sense travel-wise. Another great thing about living in Miami is obviously we have the Miami International Airport, but we also have Fort Lauderdale International Airport, which is also an international airport. And there are a lot of flights that fly out of Fort Lauderdale. So if you can't find something in Miami, then you have another option of flying out of Fort Lauderdale. I'll tell you, we go to the Carolinas a lot because that's where all of my family is from. And then Ogden has a lot of family in Virginia. And sometimes we use the Fort Lauderdale airport because the travel from Fort Lauderdale into some smaller airports on the eastern part of the United States is just a lot easier from Fort Lauderdale. For instance, if I wanted to go see my family in Spartanburg, South Carolina, I would actually have to take a connecting flight from Miami to get there. Versus if I want to leave from Fort Lauderdale, there are airlines that fly straight from Fort Lauderdale right into GSP, which is Greenville Spartanburg Airport. Also, we can fly into Asheville, North Carolina, and that's a really quick drive into Spartanburg County. So Fort Lauderdale has a lot of options as well. Same thing, Ogden's family, some of his family's in Virginia, and there are a lot of smaller airlines that fly into airports in Virginia that make that travel a lot easier. So we have two big options, the Miami International Airport for, traveling internationally and throughout the United States. And then also you have Fort Lauderdale Airport, which has a lot of different flights and also international flights as well. So that's really awesome. Also, a lot of people who have to get to Latin America all the time, Miami obviously makes good sense just because the flights from here there's a lot of them, and then also it's very fast. So that's why a lot of people like to live here if they have to go into that part of the world all the time. Another thing that's really awesome is that we have a lot of direct flights into Europe. For instance, we have flights into London, Rome, Madrid, and also Paris all the time. So that's super awesome. I mean, we go to Croatia and then we can fly right into somewhere in Germany and then go straight into Croatia from there. Unfortunately, there's no direct flight. I wish there was, but there's not. Hopefully in the future there will be. But we can get there relatively quickly by just flying into some other part of Europe and then straight over into Croatia. So that's really good. Also, there are a lot of private airports around as well. So that makes travel for more of the private airlines very easy. And then another thing is if you like to cruise a lot, you're a traveler who likes to cruise, we have obviously a huge port with the major cruise lines in Miami, in downtown Miami. And also if you want second options, there's also a huge port out of Fort Lauderdale, which also has a lot of the cruise lines as well. So overall, Miami is definitely a travel hub for travel enthusiasts, for those who need to travel for business or also just travel for fun. I think the location of Miami is really interesting for a lot of travelers, and it's just something that sometimes people don't talk a lot about, but I wanted to bring it up because I have a couple of clients who are moving here just specifically for the ease and access of traveling, and I think it's a really important point to bring up. If you have more questions about moving to Miami and why people like to move here, we're always here to be a resource for you. My name is Jamey Prezzi. This is my husband, Ognjen Prezzi. You can find us online on Instagram at the Prezzis, and we'll see you soon.